Today's dedication is for Terax, who gave me a very generous 1 year's worth of subscriptions on Patreon. Eshki Temur's Raw versus Fynn, Elsha, and partners Tymna and Ravos. You'll never guess how many lands we've got in our opening hand. A whole heap of lands there, and absolutely nothing else to do. Even if we get our commander down, it's not necessarily doing anything. We're too reliant on the top deck, so I will go down a card. Okay, we're not destined to do very well here, are we? Go down 2 cards, apparently. Okay, and a very similar hand to the one that we just mulliganed, so keep. We've got Surveil lands, we'll have access to all of them actually, so Demo Field and Mosswalk Bridge can go away. Looks as though the Orzhov player is bringing us a Cleric deck, and plays a turn 1 Cleric in Soul's Attendant, Paladin class for Elsha. Okay, and Fynn has decided to pass through the turn, so we might see an early scoop here. 8 cards in hand and he discards. I'm guessing that's a misclick. Okay, looks as though he's still playing it out though, which is admirable. So a forest, he'll be a turn behind for the rest of the game, but a green player can always catch up on mana. We can carry on drawing into bombs here, so might want to go for a turn 3 commander, so I'll get down the tap lands first. Keep a forest on top. A Arlie into play, triggers the Soul's Attendant for the first time to gain a life. Hits the Elsha player for 1. Turn 2 at 1 mana Death Toucher. This being a life gain player, you would assume that the Infect attempts will go in over there. We know we're drawing into the forest, so get down our second Surveil land. Blasphemous Act is likely an intelligent keep, especially when we're trying to get into the mid to late game. There is a Homeward Path over here now in case anyone wants to steal anything from this player. And gets down Tymna the Weaver will be able to hit 2 players with his 2 creatures, so that draws in more cards. Although I have to take the life to that, meaning that he's not going to be 10 life above his starting life total. We get the 2-3, the 1-1 goes down the middle. 2 opponents hit, loses 2 and draws 2. Elsha comes down for the first time. Then we see Fynn as well, so how much will Blasphemous Act cost us? It's 9 in total, so I think we can afford it if we get an untapped land in here. And alright, goes in at us for the Infect, so that's just made my mind up for me. Which means we need to get that forest in and pay 3 mana for this. A Talisman now still has 6 cards in hand and throws out a Priest of Forgotten Gods, nothing to sacrifice into it though. Whirlwind of Thought is going to be one of the best cards in that deck. Wild Growth to ramp the green player. Still can't afford his commander though. So instead casts a Bow of Nylea, and that's hopefully going to buy us the time we want here. We can go for both our commander and Birds of Paradise, so get an untapped landing. Put the first plus counter on Eshki. It is not a big creature, Birds of Paradise, so we're not going to draw a card. If we're lucky, we can get into an untapped land into the Trumpeting Carnosaur next turn though. Ravos down into play, and it's at the beginning of your upkeep. You return a creature from graveyard to hand. Master of Dark Rites is another means of sacrificing stuff. Plays Elsha again. Beast Whisperer for the green player. Only 3 cards in hand there, so he'll want to start drawing cards into casting his creatures. And no land for us, unfortunately. We'll have to see how the next turn progresses, because might have to be evacuation just to drag the game out longer, unfortunately. This will bounce all the creatures back to hand. Ravos decides to turn Ailey to hand. More Clerics with the Giver of Runes, he's down to 3 cards as well. Rotlung Reanimator as well. Can leave some zombies behind. Well, this is what I held on to evacuation for. We are going to be forced to sacrifice to the Edict. So I'll let the zombies come into play first. He sacrificed the Master of Dark Rites, Rotlung Reanimator, and yeah, the Soul's Attendant is still in the bin. And then he's targeting all of us, so we're all going to have to sacrifice here. We'll just have to go for evacuation to try and stay in it. Our opponent will still draw the card and add 2 mana, and still manages to play Ravos Soul Tender for 5 mana from his hand. Elsha for 3 mana, being cast for the 3rd time, but obviously doesn't have to pay commander tax from his hand. Deserted Temple can untap a target land, so I'm guessing he's got Gaia's Cradle in the list. This is bracket 3 I've asked for, so we can certainly play that. Beast Whisperer back again. Then decides to deal 2 damage to a target creature with flying. I forgot Bow of Nylea could do that. Unusual for green, but it does care about flyers, so gets that commander out of the way with the bow. The Orzhov player still has a full grip with 43 life. Had we have got into a land here, which we don't, it would have been the Trumpeting Carnosaur. I think... do we have to go for Uro here and just try and get the mana going at some point this century? And if we just clear and land off the top, then, well, we weren't going to draw into one next turn anyway, so it's not like we would have been doing anything else. I suppose we could have played our commander with the intention of playing Uro into our commander, and we get to draw 2 there effectively. No land, it's an Outcaster Trailblazer. So maybe next turn we get into a land and we can go for the 2/3 drops now. Noteworthy there's a Minas Tirith here, although we're all struggling to keep creatures in play thanks to myself. Plays out Ailey. Soltari Visionary is a shadow creature, it can blow up enchantments, and the Giver of Runes is back into play as well. Mondrak Glory Dominus in play, ready for swinging in with Elsha, although there's a lot of setting up going on here. Haven't seen much non-creature action into the Whirlwind of Thought. He's got 5 cards in hand. Alright, he has a combat research at least, so draws to the enchantment, buffs this up to a 2/2, and it can still swing in towards us, which I dare say it's going to. And then the enchantment itself will give it ward 1 and +1/+1. The Orzhov player holding up priority here, so might be able to get rid of it. Although if it's swords, he can pay the ward cost, so he might want to see where it swings in. And yep, comes in towards us. That is now a 3/3, so deals 3 commander damage and makes 6 tokens. Toski, Bearer of Secrets, is more card draw. Not seeing too much death touch over here though. That will trigger the Beast Whisperer for a card draw as well. And doesn't blow up our Birds of Paradise with the bow this time. It is Animal Friend. Whenever this creature attacks, put a 1/1 green squirrel token into play. Put a plus counter on that token for each aura and equipment attached to this creature other than Animal Friend. Would love to see a land here, although I'm sure it doesn't it doesn't catch us up at this point, unfortunately. So do we go Outcaster? That can enter, give us a mana, and then we can still go for our commander. I forgot that this enters and gives you a mana actually, so... but we kind of need to still guarantee Farseek, so it's probably just Eshki and Farseek here. Get our last Surveyor land after all this time. And now we see a land on top. We'll keep it and play the commander. So that means next turn we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mana. So we could just go straight in for a Tali and try and create some kind of board so that it's not as easy for our opponents to go wide on us. Soltari Visionary is likely going to try and get rid of the Wild Growth. Maybe could be the Aura. And Ailey swings in towards us. I think we're going to eat a lot of damage during this turn cycle. And we see yet another board wipe, Kaya's Wrath, so I'm glad we kept that land on top. That means it's likely just trumpeting Carnosaur next turn. Fortunately for our opponent over here, the Toski is indestructible. Now the Shadow player must have got through, but I can't see that he's blown anything up here. Mondrak didn't have the mana available to make itself indestructible. Azorius Signet will cantrip with the Jeskai land. So he's going to have to cast his commander again for a 4th time, I think it is. Shows us a Rhystic Study. Already has a full grip, so not sure how much we're going to play into that. Doesn't have a Reliquary Tower, that is an Ash Barrens that he didn't basic land cycle with. Holding up Azorius mana. Fynn the Fangbearer back into play. It will not cantrip thanks to Beast Whisperer anymore. Does not pay for Rhystic Study, so he must have a 4-drop he's eager to get down here. Okay, so plays Canker Bloom. He can pay the tax here and then sacrifice this to blow up the Rhystic Study, which would probably be a good idea. Looks like that is what he's doing. And does exactly what we said, blows up the Rhystic Study, which did draw a card at least, and it drew out the spot removal from our opponent. The 1/1 swings in at the Jeskai player, so that is a squirrel token, and when it hits it'll draw a card as well. And I can't say I've ever seen those squirrel tokens before, thankfully. So it's a mountain for us. We know that we just pretty much have to go for the trumpeting Carnosaur here. And then if we manage to leave that in play, it's probably Rishkar's Expertise and just attempt to get going at some point. We're still trying. And that enters, so we discover 5. Wouldn't say no to more mana, although the haste on this isn't the worst. So cast that. What's the clause on this? I messed this up at one point, thinking it's not a May ability because of the way it's worded. If creatures you control have total power 8 or greater, then a target creature you control can fight up to 1 creature an opponent controls. We don't have that total power at the moment, but we're best knocking down this player's life total while we've got the chance. Oh, previously he blew up the Bow of Nylea. That's an enchantment artifact. I just think of this as an artifact for some reason. So yeah, the shadow creature did indeed blow something up. I was just wondering where the bow went, and that must have been it. Tymna swings back in at us, so we'll gain 2 life and be able to pay a life and draw a card. But I think these players have successfully been slowed down. Ravos Soul Tender now has both of his commanders in play. And down to 2 cards in hand, he gets back in the Priest of Forgotten Gods. So next turn he returns a dork of some kind back to hand and can edict us away. So getting into some sack fodder off a Tali would be ideal, but we need to actually be able to draw into the mana for that. Or we could just get down either Outcast a Trailblazer or our commander, maybe both next turn, swing in with this and fight that out of the way. Elsha Threefold Master costs how much now? 2, 4, 6 and 7. And then Storm Chaser Mage, Flying Haste and Prowess. Still setting up because he hasn't been able to keep this stuff in play. I'm sure he's got a decent number of non-creature spells in hand. Contagion Clasp can put a minus counter on something. Is it going to go on the... It should probably go on Elsha. Although Ravos is a good thing as well. It can proliferate and get rid of Ravos so that he can't find any sack fodder. Yeah, does decide to put it on the Elsha. And then if he decides to proliferate for 4 mana with this, he can put another poison counter on us. And yep, the Jeskai player decides to scoop, which means we're even more likely to eat damage to this. Inspiring Call is draw a card for each creature you control with a plus counter on it. I don't really know why he's done that. I don't think he knows what that card does. So he's still at 0 cards in hand. He can afford the Contagion Clasp though. Alright, Fynn does go into the left, that's fine. Toski hits us, and the Squirrel token goes into the left as well. Makes another Squirrel token to Toski's attack. Obviously one of the tokens is blocked, hits with 2 creatures, so draws 2 cards, and gets some infect damage onto the Orzhov player, ready to proliferate with this. But with the 2 cards in hand, he might want to cast something instead, especially if he's drawn into a Death Toucher. Be funny if we got into a Death Toucher off a Tali. Does decide to tap this down for 4 mana. See what we draw into here. It is a land, so yeah. We'd set ourselves up better for next turn with Rishkar's Expertise, but we can swing in with a few big creatures this turn, as well as actually get down the Atali is really good, so that would probably blow this up so that we don't have to worry about edicts. Yeah, I think we go for Atali here. Obviously we get the ETB on that as well. It's a shame we're not doing any of this into our Eshki, but you've seen what type of game we've had today. 1 fewer players to get something off with the Atali as well. Alright, what have we got there? Last March of the Ents. Alright, that'll do. Starscape Cleric. It can't block, so it's just a 2-1 flyer. Some sack fodder for this at some point maybe. And then Heroic Intervention. Probably just leave in exile, to be honest. There's no Death Touches for us to worry about. So let's put Last March of the Ents on the stack first. And then the Cleric. And we've got a couple of big creatures in play, which is the point of the whole deck, so Last March of the Ents is going to draw us 7. Glad we went for that and didn't cast Rishkar's Expertise. And we've still got the haste available to us. Alright, so we've got Urabrask, Jolene, Territorial Hellkite, and the Outcast Trailblazer. So these will all just enter play at once. And of course, now we're drawing into all the lands. Suppose if you draw into enough cards, you'll see lands. These come straight into play all at once, so Outcast a Trailblazer sees the 4 power creatures, which means we draw 3 cards and add 1 mana. Each player gains control of all creatures they own, I forgot about that, so Starscape Cleric we should have left in exile apparently, because there's a homeward path to consider, which I didn't. Sarkhan's Unsealing is going to be nice. Yep, we just get 3 enchantments in a row there, including Rhythm of the Wild. So now, I think we're fine to go through to combat. And we have to swing in here. This is random, so it's going into the right. The other 2 are going into the left. And I'll take Urabrask into the left as well. Just hold this thing back, I think. I'm not thinking that the treasure tokens are going to be all that relevant now. So we'll make a treasure token. Gimli is going to get rid of the priest, like I've been saying for a while now. And we did manage to give our opponent a blocker, unfortunately, but he's welcome to chump if he wants to. We now have a 4 grip compared to our opponent's 2 cards in hand. Decides not to make any blocks, so this player goes down to 28. We get the life game player down to 21 is really good. And it'd be ironic if we could transform this at some point and deal poison damage to this guy. Might try and do that just for style points later. Polluted Delta, we've got both our blue jewels, so get rid of that. Ravos is going to bring something back to hand here. Decides on Giver of Runes, so starts the turn with 4 cards in hand. And it does have a 3/3 commander thanks to the Anthem, so swing that in. The flyer, yep, can go straight over us. Oh, Ravos has flying as well, I forget about that. So can definitely hit both of us and draw some cards here. Although neither of these have lifelink. So he's going down to 19 here. 6 cards in hand though. And if he was thinking of getting down blockers here, then he's not wary of the Erebras the Hidden. Crypt of Agadeem enters tapped. He only has 4 black creature cards in the graveyard. Oriok Champion has protection from red, thankfully for us. We've got trample in play anyway, but like I said, it does enter tapped. Seems as though he's not going for interaction and board wipes, just getting down more clerics. That is another tapped creature, Glarecaster. The next time damage will be dealt to this creature and or you this turn. Damage is dealt to any target instead. Well, he hasn't held up mana for that, thankfully. And does play the Giver of Runes, a bunch of tapped creatures, Erebrask doing a lot of work for us there. So he's up to 21 life after the Soul Sister gains him a little bit, down to 2 cards in hand again. And hopefully Fynn doesn't interfere with us, because I definitely want to try and get rid of this player next turn. Flesh Burrower, a 2 mana 2/2 with Death Touch. When it attacks, another creature you control gains Death Touch. Perfect for this deck. Oriok Champion triggers on any creature entering. Proliferating with Contagion Clasp puts us each on 4 poison. And if he swings in with Fynn towards us, I am going to block it here. I think that will cost 6 to recast. We can definitely block the Toski. If he wants to draw, he's going to have to try and go wide on us. Shouldn't be swinging into the left really because of lifelink. So makes a squirrel token, tries his luck drawing a card, but he at least gets a token. Gains Oriok Champion a life again. And whenever he gains a life, each opponent loses a life after we gave him that bat. Alright, so the Territorial Hellkite swung into the right last turn, meaning we've definitely got at least 3 damage over here, knocking him down to 17. And then 6 damage is negated from this with the 3 toughness and the 3 lifelink, assuming he blocks a Trampler. So that kind of negates the Carnosaur, but we can get this through. We're not going to knock this player out, I don't think. Maybe it's just worth Rishkar's expertise and try to draw into something big and scary so that we can send even more in over here. Need to bear in mind that we've got the Oro as well, although, yeah, we're a mana shy of that now. So we will draw 7 cards here. Alright, and that gets us into Goldspan Dragon, Terror of the Peaks. We can play a 4-drop into Terror of the Peaks, or a 2-drop with 4 power, which would blow this up. And then we can swing through for much more damage. How much would that be? Well, we're just turning in sideways with everything, aren't we? I dare say we can get rid of this player with that. So, as ever, relying on Terror of the Peaks. Because for some reason, Rishkar's expertise gives you a free 5 mana spell. Gains a life with the Oriok Champion. Draws us a card with the Trailblazer. Is this fight, actually? How's it worded again? Yeah, it is fight, so lifelink would matter there. That would be relevant. We lose a life to the Cleric. Draw another land to the Trailblazer. So I'll just go straight in for the imaginary pet. Priority still being held up by the green player, so he could interfere with us, could blow up the haste enabler. I'd really rather he allowed the Orzhov player to go down first though. So thanks to that Oriok Champion, our opponent's ended up at 25 life. I haven't done the maths yet, so I'm hoping that we can just turn in sideways for lethal with everything. Draw with Trailblazer again into the team at Ascendancy. In the end, I think card draw turned out to be alright. Be nice to get into a big creature into Sarkhan's Unsealing next turn so that we can wrath the board over here. Although we've got a decent number of Tramplers and Flyers. So let's do the arithmetic as we send creatures in here. As we said, the Hellkite has to turn into the left, so that is 6, taking him down to 19. These are 14, so 5 more damage is just the Terror of the Peaks. And hopefully this guy won't interfere with the Beast Within or something. I'll go into the right with this, and if he wants to block with a Death Toucher, then so be it. Gimli can have us fight something, actually. Might as well just get rid of... Yeah, we'll get rid of a Squirrel token. So that means that with Jolene, he has to block with Fynn. if he wants to block at all. I did actually point that at the Terror of the Peaks is the one that fought the token there, and if he could have given that Death Touch at instant speed, that would have been risky. Should have had this fight, really. But hopefully I've done the maths right, and this will get rid of the Orzhov player. Yeah, got him down to 0 exactly. And we now have 2 mana held up, nothing to do with it. This is 1 damage to any target, which I don't think is going to be relevant. We've got some blockers held back, which we don't mind blocking with, really. We had 13 cards in hand, just discarded a bunch, and hopefully we'll be able to get the win off next turn. We've got our opponent down to 16 after he took the damage. Season of Growth, whenever a creature you control enters, scry 1. So I'm guessing he wants to go for auras. That will trigger something like this and give his Death Touch creatures evasion. He could get us here if he hits us with 3 Death Touches. So we are going to have to block. Or I suppose we could. Yeah, we actually can't go for this to blow up a squirrel token because we'd need a treasure to actually sacrifice. We've only got 2 to pay the cost. So we should just be swinging all out here and hoping that we make a mistake. We're at 5 poison damage after the Contagion Clasp proliferate. And we know he's got no cards in hand. So it gives the indestructible Death Touch, meaning that we can let the squirrel token through. He can't afford to replay his commander again, so we don't have to worry about it re-entering tapped, because Urabrask isn't going to be in play anymore. Scry 1 when the tapped squirrel token enters, and we just block all the Death Touches here, really. Or I suppose I could let 1 Death Toucher through in the Toski, and that will send us up to 7 poison. It's 2 poison counters per Death Touch damage, or per Death Touch creature that hits. So yeah, we'll just block most of it and allow ourselves to go up to 7 when he's got no cards in hand. So Fynn goes on the stack with its ability, Toski hit, and we'll draw us a card. Or draw our opponent a card, I should say. So there's always that risk that they can put more poison on us somehow. I think he'll struggle with 5 mana and 1 card though. And our opponent hasn't managed to get a creature into play. I was just thinking keeping Urabrask in play might have been an idea, so it comes down tapped, and then we could definitely go for the meme. But we're going to tap 9 mana into the Atali and get some infect damage of our own going. Just swinging with everything, not going to bother fighting with Gimli. And I do appreciate our opponent playing this out, so we get him down to below 0. And ironically, it is infect damage there as well. So that turned out to be a very nice game for us. It took a lot of treading water, but sometimes you just have to do that when you don't get into decent cards in your opener. Didn't see any of Eshki, unfortunately, but I was surprised to see that Eshki actually seems to be a bit of a lightning rod. If I was sat across from Eshki, I wouldn't be particularly concerned with the commander. I would be scared of the fact that it's big stompy Tymna cards, as we saw here. But the commander itself I wouldn't find all that frightening, to be honest, but other players do seem to. I suppose it's fair enough if it can draw cards and mount up the damage over the course of a game. Anyway, I think everyone was struggling to keep their commanders in play there, so hopefully you all enjoyed it anyhow. I think that was a fun game. A big shout out for the patrons for their financial support of the channel as well. You can do so yourself via the link in the description below if you'd like your name in the credits and the like. I'm tribalkai. Thank you for watching.